Hello and welcome to Consulting Ninja. If you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe for me. If you find this content helpful, then hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on the next video. Comment below with any of your thoughts or topics you'd like me to cover, and don't forget to check out my website, consultingninja.tech. With that out of the way, let's improve the user experience of SvelteKit forms. Now, what do I mean? Well, we've all seen the old example here. I have a short form, and when we fill in our information, if there's any problems, we can kick it back to the user and return all of that information to the user so that they don't have to fill out the entire form all over again. And this is not bad. I've taken that a tiny bit further in this example in that I've also highlighted what's determined to be the problem area in red. And that's helpful to the user to point them in the direction of what needs to be fixed. You also could add in some error messaging here in the form as well. But what drives me nuts about this the most is that when you start filling this out, it doesn't go away. It continues to yell at the user regardless that they're addressing the problem you've identified or not. So if you'd like to see how to take that to this, in this version, we can fill out our form, and when we kick this back, a couple of things are going to be different. First, you'll see that the problem area is still highlighted in red, but I've also put the focus on that form element. That way a user is right where they need to be. The other way that I have improved this is that as soon as we start typing, we no longer yell at the user because they're addressing the problem we've identified. And that's how it should be. The difference between the timeout and the instant, as I go through this example, I'll show you the timeout functions very similarly, except for it takes about 20 times as much code to do it that way than using Svelte the way it's supposed to be used. So if you want to see how to implement this, and you want to see how to implement this using about 22 characters of code, stick around. That's what we're going to do right now. So inside of the code base, all I have here so far is I've defined my routes. I've got a regular route, a timeout route, and an instant route. And I have a plus page.svelte inside of each of those with this styling code. I'm not going to get into the style because it would just make this video too long. As always, I will make all of the source code available for this project in my repository, link in the description of this video. The very first thing I'm going to do is let's go ahead and make a pluspage.server.js file, and this will be the same for all of these, so we can make one and just copy and paste it. All we're going to use this for is returning our form action, so pluspage.server.js, and inside of here we just need to export const actions. This, of course, will be that object, and we'll call this register. This is a make-believe register function, and we need to take the request and then inside of here we're just going to do the good old form equals await request.form data. That way we can get all of our form data. We'll get our first name, by doing a form.get, and if it's not there, we'll just put in the empty string. Now we can copy that 3 times. I'm a big fan of copying and pasting when it makes sense. As long as you know what you're doing. I wouldn't recommend copy and pasting out of someone's code if you don't know what it does. That would only lead you to more problems. So be sure you understand if you're going to copy and paste first. And then we'll get our email. Then we'll just build an object called data. And there we'll just put each item that we've just pulled, first name, last name, and email. And then we will return, we'll say email error equals true. And then we'll spread out data. Just like that. Now, in a production example, what you would do is go through the form, and anywhere where there's a problem, you'd have the specific error nailed down, and that's what you'd set to true, and then all of the form data that you're passing back. So we can save that, and then let's copy that whole file and paste that into regular, and paste that into the timeout route as well. Now inside of regular, as I said, I just have the plus page and no code inside except for the styles. So the basic form, in order to make the first version work, let's make a script. And inside of here, all we need to do is export let form. Then we can put our markup. We'll have a div with a class of, we'll call this sign in wrapper. Then an h1, and we'll say regular. This is the regular version. Then another div with a class equal to sign in content. And then we'll close that div off. Inside of here, let's go ahead and make our form. This will have a method of post. We are always going to be posting to our form actions, and the action that we called it was register, so that will be the case for all of these. And we can close that form off. Now inside of here, for styling purposes, I do have everything wrapped in a form item div. So class equal to form dash item. And then inside of here, let's make a label. This will be for first name, anything that's going to be required, you can put the sup and then a small with the asterisk. That will give us that nice little red asterisk saying, hey, this field is required. And then our input. The value will be equal to form question mark dot first name and the coalescing operator there, and if nothing's there, we'll do an empty string. So this is how you pass your form information back. So if there's a problem, you pass the form back, and this will populate the first name field so that they don't have to type that all over again. The ID will be first name, type will be text, name will be first name, and this will be a required field. So that's great, and then we'll just copy and paste this whole div twice. One for the last name. Let's go ahead and modify this, so change the for to last name. And we can copy that, last name, last name, last name, and then we'll just put a capital L on there. All right, so we have our first name and last name. This one will be email, email with a capital E. We're going to be looking for the email value coming back from form, ID of email, type of email, name of email. This will also be required. Now, in order to put the red outline when there's a problem, we'll do that with a class of field error, and then do a form, and then whatever, in this case it will be email error. But if you wanted to extend this to other inputs, then you would just put whatever error that particular input is looking for. Now let's go ahead and copy this one more time. This would be a good spot to put any error messages that we want to send back. Let's do an if form dot error. If there's any error at all, then we'll display the message. We'll put a small tag, and do a form dot message. So any error that comes back, we can also provide an error message there. Now let's make one more, and inside of here we'll do our button. So this is super straightforward. This is just a button with a type of submit. We'll call this sign up. And then last but not least, let's go ahead and close off our div wrapper so we don't forget to do that. So that we can see that message, let's go ahead back to our pluspage.server.js, and we're going to need to add two things here. Let's go ahead and add our message. Let's just say there was an error and a comma, and then we also have to set the error to true, because that's what we're checking, if there was an error at all. So let's go ahead and give that a save and try this out. Let's see, we got Bob Johnson, and there we go. We're highlighted. There's our message, so that if there's an error at all, we can display the message there. This is the normal tutorial that you'll see out there. It does something very similar. They probably don't even highlight the problem area, but there we have. This is pretty good. This kind of lets the user know what's going on. Here's the problem. But as I pointed out, there's some big problems with this that I don't like. One, this is going to stay red. The error message is going to stay down there. It's just not a great user experience. It's better than erasing all of their information, making them fill out the form completely, but this definitely can be improved. So let's take this one step further. Let's go ahead and copy all of the code that we just wrote. Copy that, and inside of our timeout plus page dot svelte, let's paste this in the top. Now, in order to make this a little bit better, this one, we're going to use some lifecycle methods. So let's use after update, and we'll use on destroy, and these will be from Svelte. Then we're going to define a variable let email, and what we're going to store in there is the email input itself. Then let's set a timeout ID. Next, we'll write a reactive statement, and this is going to say if email and form question mark dot email error, then we're going to email dot focus. Now this is how we're going to set the focus on the problem area. Now this is a simple example, but you could take this a bit further with a little bit more logic and have this set the focus to whatever the specific problem is in a larger form. Just want to keep this simple. So the next thing here is let's set a function. Let's write a function called clear field error. And here, don't know if anyone has realized you can do this, but form dot email error equal to false. This resets the email error property on the object. We let the server file adjust. So if you aren't aware, when you do export let form, you are creating a variable, and then in your plus page.server, where you return, that's that variable that you're returning. So form in plus page.svelte here is in fact this object. And since we're creating it as a let, this is not a const, this is a let, this is perfectly legit to modify it as we see fit. So not sure you knew you could do that, but you can. That is how we will clear it out. Now we're going to write a function called start typing. This function will run whenever the user starts typing. So here we'll do clear timeout ID. So if there's any timeouts going, we'll get rid of that. And then we're going to set timeout ID equal to set timeout. And what we're going to do is we're going to run the clear field error function, and we'll run this after, I don't know, 500 milliseconds. Now, we need the lifecycle methods when you're using timeouts because you'll create memory leaks if you don't do this. So what we're going to do is after update, the very first time this runs is after the component first mounts. So what we're going to do is after this updates, run this function. The function is going to add an event listener. So we're going to do email $.add event listener. So we're attaching an event listener after the email variable that we're storing the input element itself in on line 5. After update, this will have been filled in with the actual input element. It'll be fully hydrated at that point, and we can attach an event listener to it. So what we're going to do is add event listener on the input, and what we're going to do is run the start typing function. So as soon as they start typing, this event listener will trigger to run the start typing. The start typing will set a timeout that triggers after 500 milliseconds to clear the actual error out. Makes sense? This all works. This, if you haven't noticed, is starting to take a lot of code. It's like, wait a minute, but wait, we're not done yet. We have one more thing we have to do, and that is when this component is destroyed, we need to clean up after ourselves, or again, we will have a memory leak. So inside of the onDestroy method, when this page, in this case it's a page, but if this were a component, when that component is destroyed, no longer rendered on the page, we need to clear our timeout. And we pass in our timeout ID variable there. Oops, not inside the bracket, just outside. And then we also need to remove that event listener. Email.remove event listener input and start typing. So if you're not familiar, this is going to remove. Oh, this is not on destroyed. Sorry, this is on destroy. And I did import that. Okay, so we're good. Removes the event listener. Just if you're not sure what's happening there. And now in our plus page.server, let's go ahead and make sure we have a message. Say there was an error. And we need to set our error on here to true. All right. And then let's update our H1 there. Say timeout. And then last but not least, we cannot forget on our email, here's where we need to bind this, the actual email input itself, to that variable that we declared in the beginning. So give that a save. So let's give that a try. Bob Johnson, bob@gmail.com. And there's our message. Our field error class is applied, and if we start typing after a short period there, the field error goes away, so that's better. You also could tie this into the message, but that's just really long. I mean, we're looking at all of this code just to make that happen. There has to be a better way, and if you think that, I certainly thought that, and absolutely you'd be right to think that, because there is. You can accomplish this much easier by using Svelte the way it's meant to be used. Let's go ahead and copy our timeout page, copy all the way from the bottom div all the way to the top. Copy that, and inside of our plus page.svelte in the instant route, let's paste that all in there. This is going to be really lightweight, so we can go ahead and get rid of this import. We're not going to need that in the instant method, and we're not going to need any of this. So we just shaved off all of that drama, all of that code, got rid of all of it. So that's looking a lot better, but we also do not need the timeout ID. Not even going to need that. We will still need the binding. We're still going to bind to email. Let's go ahead and change this to instant. That way we have the right page name there, page heading. And now how we accomplish this, it's just so easy. On, key down, we're going to go ahead and run an anonymous function. We're going to use brackets so that we can do multiple things. What we're going to do is set form.email error to false and form.error to false, just like that. Give that a save. And inside of the plus page.server now, let's not forget to add our message. There was an error, and error equal to true. Save that. Now let's go ahead and give this a shot. So Bob Johnson. All right, our highlighting is correct. There's our message, and as soon as I type, the outlining goes away and the error message also goes away. That is so much cleaner to me. That just looks so much better. It feels so much more responsive. Just a much better user experience in my personal opinion. So there it is. I hope that you all have found this video helpful. If you did, don't forget to like, share this video, comment below. Take care, and as always, have a great day.